Hello and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today we're reviewing the astrology from October 19th through October 25th, 2025, and we're your host. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaylee.
And welcome back. So we're going to start off this week with the energy in Scorpio on Sunday is the Mercury Mars conjunction, which I think actually happens later or early Monday morning, but we'll definitely be feeling it all throughout Sunday. And this is
hmm
what we talked a lot about last podcast, the last two podcasts, with these two coming together. And this is going to be sort of the peak energy of the two. Mars has been really stirring up a obsession or a drive or like a really big desire to take some action somewhere. And Mercury is kind of just working with Mars on this project, on this like goal. Mercury's like making you talk more about it, making you think more about it, more expression about it. So you're really starting to see like what it is that's been going on in the Scorpio area of your house that you're like taking a lot of action on and like also really wanting to change or discuss or like having maybe dealing with conflict there as well, but also like just wanting more actually wanting more change, wanting more energy in that area. And there's just a lot going on in that space. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's like amping up Scorpio energy can be very possessive and passionate and what's the other word I'm looking for? Obsessive. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that we will feel like these tendencies come up in ourselves wherever Scorpio is in our chart. And it can kind of go one of two ways. It could be like, you use that energy to your detriment and obsess over things that kind of cause your demise in one way or another. Or you could use that energy and kind of use it to facilitate major change or, go out and like get what you really want. The reason that you're obsessing over it is probably because you want it in some regard.
Mm-hmm.
So, taking that powerful Mars and that combination of Mercury and using it to be like, I'm going to get this thing, and, the Mercury aspect comes in to like rope your mental sphere into the whole game. You're not just like leading with action, but you're thinking about it too, and you're brainstorming and you're planning, and, you're using physical and mental spheres together to, get that thing that you are striving for.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I do think like all of us in some way is kind of like obsessing over something and
Mm-hmm.
it can be something within your life, but also like maybe about the world around you too. And like this day can be like those real explosive conversations come out where you finally say the thing that you have been like holding in within you this whole time or like
Yeah.
festering on. And then you like finally be like, I gotta address this. I have to talk about this, or I have to like, I don't explode a little bit,
That's
you
such,
know?
yeah, that's such a, like, I'm really glad you say that because if like Scorpio sat at the dinner table, that would be like the person who says the thing that nobody else wants to say.
Right.
It's like, telling the truth or like unveiling like what's really going on. So I think that's a really good point that you could be like being like, I'm not holding back anymore. I'm going to, share what I authentically feel. And I don't really like care at all what anybody has to say about it. Like that's just how I feel and that's what it's going to be. And I think Scorpio has that like beautiful ability to kind of be authentic and I think it's because like emotions are so strong. I don't think it really has a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like it's kind of as we were talking about like previous weeks, how like with Venus being in Libra, there is this tendency to slide things under the radar and make things
hmm
seem more pretty and pleasant than they typically are, what they actually are, kind of distort the reality a bit for ease or connection or whatever. And Mars in Scorpio and Mercury here in Scorpio is like, I'm unveiling the curtain. Like, nope, look what's behind everything. This is all a facade. Like, look at all you've been lied to. Like, let's talk about these things that nobody is bringing up because they're like the elephant in the room. We know it's there, you know? We have to
Mhm.
like address it. And so it is kind of like bringing out the darker side of things that we may have been hiding or just not choosing to work with because it's not as pretty.
Yeah, yeah, maybe like Mars is like kind of acting as like this magnetic force to like, you can't ignore this anymore or it's like this yeah, just this thing like I'm going to make you obsess over it or think about it all the time so that, you have to say something or have to pay attention. Like there's no choice anymore not to pay
Right.
attention. Yeah.
I don't know. It is really interesting. Like it's I don't know. A lot of just be mindful around your conversations, I guess, for today because like you can definitely like really say the thing that it kind of shocks somebody or like, there's arguments can always happen with like a Mercury Mars. Um,
Mhm.
but it maybe be showing you something that you really need to change anyway, so it's not like the biggest thing ever. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think like definitely what you say is true, but Scorpio can also like kind of I don't want to say like manipulate, but it is like
Yeah.
this like energy of like being able to see how people might respond to something and then saying like a specific thing to like get the response that you want. So it is like manipulative, but you know, I think also to be careful of like your own manipulative tendencies or
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah, well, I mean, Mars in general is a goal getter
for
planet. Like
sure.
it
Yeah.
wants its things, and Scorpio is gonna do it in a less in your face way. Like Aries is gonna be very like upfront and loud about it. And Scorpio is gonna be moving in silence or like, yeah, more manipulative, more passive.
Yeah, yeah, for
Uh,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, the last thing is that I didn't put it on here because it's not that big of a discussion, but on the next day, on the 20th,
Mm-hmm.
Mercury does enter its shadow period and it will retrograde back to this degree. So, what is interesting is the fact that these two conjuncted right before it entered its shadowed period is that we're not going to have three interactions, we're only going to have two. So, we're going to have this conjunction, and then we're going to have the conjunction again when Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius. So, I don't know how that's all going to play out, but I just
Yeah.
think it's like an interesting thing to keep in mind of like the Mercury Mars are still very working very close together right now
Yeah,
and
for
will
sure.
be.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and whatever this like conjunction like may bring up, I think there
will be
will
continued.
yeah, it will be
Yeah,
continued in a way or it like sets something off that like also will impact Sagittarius in some way.
yeah,
Um yeah, so that's definitely interesting to note. So yeah, Mercury will be slowing down after this. So it's interesting also to
yes.
have like a big kind of more explosive moment and then a slow down after that. It's like a slow burn. Uh,
Yeah, and it's like the slow, yeah, because those two will still be traveling pretty close together for the
mm-hmm.
next couple weeks. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see kind of what gets sparked under this conjunction and what is like dragged out from it.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
do think it's going to be like a dragged out situation. It's not going to be like a one and done, like F you, and then we hug tomorrow. It's going to be
No, it's
like,
like we're gonna have to talk again in 2 weeks, you know?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we can. That was it. That was all I wanted to add.
Cool. Then on the 21st, we have a new moon in Libra. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So it's happening at 28 degrees of Libra. We do have an out of sign square from Pluto.
Yeah.
And it's kind of loose, like by 3 degrees. And then, if we're doing the same for 3 to 4 degrees, we do kind of have this like square from Jupiter too.
Mhm.
Um, I do think in like the area of Libra, we're getting an opportunity for some kind of reflection or fresh start in this, Libra house in our chart. When we were having that Mars Mercury conjunction, I did notice that the moon was back there hanging out with Venus. So, the moon being in Libra is kind of like still an undercurrent to these like couple days. And then, we like gear up to that new moon. So I think it like kind of, this actually Mars and Mercury conjunction is still active. I can see it, it's at 20 degrees right there. But, there is this kind of spotlight change where we get, a reflection or an ability to focus more on that Libra area. Um, yeah, what do you think, Maddie?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Like, it's just two polar energies happening at once. Like, ideally, constructively looking at this new moon, like, it is a slightly more positive moon just with the fact that Venus is here in Libra. And like that square to Jupiter is pretty helpful and empowering and strengthening. And the moose out of sign square to Pluto, I think is more as of like a foreshadowing, as like I don't
Yeah,
know. I
for
can just
when.
see,
Yeah.
yeah, like a foreshadowing, like it's not going to be all so pretty and easy continuing this. So, like, I can see it. I will use myself as an example because I think it's easier for me. Um, my fourth house is Scorpio, family, home, and all that. And I live in Florida, and my grandparents like snowbird from Florida, and they're coming back to Florida soon. And I don't have the best relationship with them because they're just very traditional and conservative and ask a lot from me. And, I work a lot of jobs and I have a lot going on, and they like also demand a lot of my attention. And I can see the Mercury Mars kind of bringing up conflicting conversations in that area as they come back, or me trying to cut away from the family. But then the third house is Libra ruled with Venus there, and that's like my day to day is nice, where I'm teaching yoga or I'm going around and I'm seeing things with friends. And so I can just see this like separation a bit where I'm really trying to, with this new moon, ideally start something new within my community, work more with the yoga, with the astrology of the people that I'm working with and interacting with on a day-to-day basis, but then still having to pull into or deal with this like more hidden conflict within my family and like balancing, right? Like Libra season between the two. But the fact of like this new moon is like, okay, what can you stabilize? But this conflict in Scorpio is now going to become something that's going to grow because we have Mercury retrograding in here. We're now going to have the sun coming in here and squaring
Hmm.
Pluto. And this Pluto square is like, maybe there is this tendency in our life to kind of hide away in our Libra space right now where things are softer, easier. But the Pluto's showing that like you can't do that for too long. Like the issues are going to come out that you're avoiding
Yeah, for
that are going to
sure.
be pulled into Scorpio.
Hmm. Yeah, because in a couple days after this, we will have the sun moving into Scorpio and then squaring Pluto. Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot going on in like the Scorpio houses, and you're not going to be able to, yeah, like run away from such thing. But I think what you said is true. Like, we are hoping on that like Venus and Libra to like ease some of that stress or
Mm-hmm.
conflict. Yeah.
But it's almost like it's in a different area of your life, and like you're having these two opposing or simultaneous things happening at once, but like it's not going to last. Eventually they're going to get pulled, like this new moon is going to get pulled into Scorpio, and then it's now going to like cross over like my day to day running around doing all the things in my third house is going to be kind of diverted to my fourth probably.
Probably
Yeah,
too. And Venus is kind of at, it's like almost midway through Libra at this point, but
right.
it will eventually also go into Scorpio, which will also, rope that whole thing into it too. And it's not in a positive place there, so it's not going to do anybody any good. So,
No.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot going on in the Scorpio house for sure. Like a
Right.
huge point of reflection. And I think, as much of as it is a point of reflection, it also is like it's going to be in your face. So you won't
Yeah.
have a choice but to reflect on it.
Yeah. And I just think the new moon will kind of be a nice, maybe like ending to Libra season where like what did you learn about that space? What do you want to implement with like Venus still here in terms of like solidifying relationships or like commitments and softness into your life before we go into the battleground?
I almost feel like Libra season just began though. Like I feel like it began when
Yeah,
Venus
because
went in there.
Venus just entered
Yeah.
Libra. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
I like just started noticing that it exists. Before that, I was like, maybe. Yeah.
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 Yeah, because we had so much going on in like Virgo that was distracting. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah, that's the new moon. And then we will shift gears a lot. And on the next day, the 22nd, on Wednesday, is when Neptune retrograde moves back into Pisces.
yes, it does.
And yeah, it's only gonna be, it's not gonna actually leave 29 degrees. So it's actually gonna stay at 29 degrees forever, not forever, but until it moves back to Aries. So it goes direct in early December, and then it will be back into Aries in late January 2026. So there's literally like 2.5, 3 months, 3 months and some change of like Neptune here in Pisces, but I don't like Neptune coming back into Pisces and really reactivating like the Saturn Neptune conjunction, like as we were talking about a little bit before this podcast of like how we were enjoying the separation between the two because it felt like we could be more aware of our Saturn duties and like what is being asked of us in that space. And Neptune coming back into Pisces is just going to make everything really confusing again.
Yeah, it like reinvites the confusion into the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like listening to other podcasts. I think it was the astrology podcast, but I think it was also the other one, um, where like a lot of Saturn Neptune stuff is like just reality being uncertain, like AI videos not knowing if they're real or not, or like the laws of the government not knowing if they're real or not. We talked a lot about that when they were in Aries together, like not knowing what to follow. And like I just think it makes reality be like, what is real? And like the unreal becomes real. And like there's just a lot of more enhance of like illusions going on.
Yeah, for sure, because Saturn is like representative of stability, when we're
Mm,
inviting like this elusive Neptune to the space, and all of a sudden we don't know what's stable because nothing really is. It has this like air of uncertainty over it. I do like though that they're not going to be like right next to each other. We do have like a couple degrees of space. I'm not sure if that'll make a
yeah,
huge difference, but I do like that they're not like in each other's face. Um,
right.
but yeah, for it's interesting too though because like for those of you who have Saturn and Pisces and are wrapping up your Saturn return, it's like you get the end of your Saturn return left on a note of confusion. So it's
Yeah.
like, wait, what?
Or maybe like a little bit delusion, like, oh, this is all gonna work out so well. And like, yeah, or maybe it is just feeling like, I don't know, you just can't grasp the ending yet. You probably won't until Saturn
Yeah.
leaves. Yeah.
Well, like you said, I think you said Neptune will go into Aries in January, right? And I
Yeah.
know Saturn moves into Aries in February, so we do probably
Yeah.
have like a short 3 month or 3 week or like a month period to kind of probably get our like final understanding. But
Right.
um it is important to note that wherever Saturn rules in your birth chart, there will be like some air of confusion over that, I think, until about January. Yeah, so
Yeah.
just expect like the Saturn rule houses to be a little bit like confusing and not really making sense and like what do I do? And that can be particularly challenging for Saturn like we mentioned because our Saturnian houses require us to develop some type of long-term plan and kind of move towards some type of end goal or something. Like if you were to think about it as like finances or something. It's like, this is what I want to do for the next every like I want to save $200 every month for the next 5 years or whatever, and then eventually have this much money. Well, Neptune comes in and says, how are you gonna like it just confuses the whole thing for some
Yeah.
reason or another. And you're like not able to reach that goal or even know if you're gonna reach that goal. It might be possible, but maybe it's just not possible in the way that you would logically think it's possible. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think the emotions, are all gonna be really brought up too and like maybe a little confusing. Like I thought that I wanted this and I thought I wanted this stability, but now I'm unsure.
for
Like,
sure. Yeah.
what do I really want? What is my real dream?
Yeah, or do I want to go in the direction of my dreams? Like, yeah, Saturn
Yeah.
meeting Neptune could be like, oh, forget about all that work you did. Go towards like go towards your dreams.
Yeah, scrap all that work. You don't need that. You can just
Mm-mm.
jump.
Yeah, that's so funny. Um,
So, yeah. Great.
mm-mm. So yeah, let's see what's next. We do have the sun entering Pisces, or sorry, entering Scorpio after this, not entering Pisces. So, yeah, we had talked about this earlier when we were talking about, the new moon in Libra, and then we do have the sun popping right into Scorpio, and it will, make that square in about a degree. So we won't talk about that just yet, but the
This is the
sun in
next.
is it the next one?
Yeah, so you can just include it because
Okay.
the sun enters late on the 22nd and then it will exactly square earlier on the 24th. So it will be activated the moment the sun enters into Scorpio.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think we're getting like a powerful realization. We've had quite a number of like squares to Pluto, and there's something with like this Pluto in Aquarius that's just asking us to, dig deeper. And there's like this deeper, like, revelation coming up. There's some sort of, connection here between, Scorpio and Pluto that's being activated. Or, I mean, Scorpio and Aquarius that's being activated during Scorpio season because we had all those squares happen. Um, and maybe it's like just figuring out, what is the link? So for me, it would be like, I have Pluto in my 10th and I have Scorpio in my 7th. What's the link between my relationships and my career, or my public image? What's so funny, Maddie?
Sorry. I'm just nothing. Continue.
Maddie's just over there cackling in the corner. So, yeah, it's just like these deeper things that exist, how does like one impact the other and, what depth exists there?
I was just thinking about all the drama you're going through with your relationships and like how is that impacting your career? I'm curious.
I think that it's like I focus too much on relationships more than,
And your
yeah.
career is like very low right now, so it's just like it's
Yeah,
kind of
it's
that
like,
conflict where you're like, oh, I could just put all my energy into the relationships instead.
yeah, maybe that'll like ease the career pain that I have, I think that's like part of the story.
Yeah,
Um, but that's kind of like been like a whole life thing for me. I'd rather like focus on relationships than on career stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
that's your birth chart.
Huh? It's your
So
birthright,
that's in
yeah.
your birth chart anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think it is, it's like with Pluto being in Aquarius, if you don't like realize like some of these like deeper truths, that like are holding you back, maybe in, that Aquarian space, you're not going to like gather power throughout Pluto's transit through Aquarius. So at the first degrees, it's very much like necessary to understand, what is preventing me from gathering power.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was what I was really gonna bring up was that like the fact that the sun is leaving a place of fall where, the sun is not as empowered in Libra because it's asked to be not self-centered as much and focus more on relationships and others and relating to that sense of connection. But that's not a very like individualistic placement, right? It's not one that is very self-empowering about your own goals and dreams. So the sun almost entered into Scorpio in itself is a big shift because Scorpio is going to be your identity and your goals and personal self expression become more intense and more important. And then the square to Pluto is really going to be about like re-empowering yourself in some way or like really establishing like another sense of strength and power maybe in the Scorpio area, but also as it conflicts with whatever area Aquarius is in your chart.
Mhm.
Um, and then maybe when you kind of get out of this like emotional or like relationship haze that sometimes happens, like when you're so fixated on the other, fixated on like the Libra socializing lightness, is like you realize some more things about yourself that you were ignoring. Like, I don't actually enjoy these things, or I actually have this thing that I really is really important to me, and I want to focus on this. Pluto can be uncovering those deeper, darker parts of yourself too, in this sense.
Yeah, that's a good point, like, being able to, like, look at yourself, like, truthfully and not, like,
Yeah,
peeling back, like, the lens of, like, what do I wanna do for myself rather than, what appeases other people, which is, like, what Libra has a really hard time with. Um,
right.
yeah, interesting. There's definitely an invitation to, like, become a little bit more selfish, a little bit more, like, you know, because Scorpio, like, will the reason that that they manipulate or try to shift things is for the benefit of self, like,
Mhm.
so I could definitely see, um, that kind of coming online a little bit, like, how can I be a little bit more discerning and, benefiting myself?
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's
yeah,
not necessarily a bad thing. Like, maybe, maybe it's necessary in whatever you're trying to achieve in one way or the other, that maybe, like, before, um like, you couldn't have achieved that thing because you were too focused on other people, so now you have an opportunity to, like, focus on yourself.
yeah, exactly. And then so it's kind of that re-empowerment, and then maybe too like Pluto, because like Pluto would be trining Libra. Maybe this square to Pluto will really clearly show you where you've given your power away and
Mhm.
like how you've given it away, and then what it takes to bring it back to yourself that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So interesting shift. For the last two, you just want to talk about them together.
Sure.
So the 24th and 25th, Mercury is going to make some interactions to, will be making this bigger like trine, and it's almost like this big like water trine that's going to be happening in the sky. Kind of alongside the sun is still squaring Pluto around the 24th, but Mercury will first trine Jupiter in Cancer on the 24th Friday, and then on Saturday morning it will trine Saturn in Pisces. Um, Interesting big shift because we talked about last week how we had this big air trine
Mhm.
with Venus, and now we're like all suddenly into all this water energy, and now we're having this like grand water trine.
Mhm.
And Mercury is being the first is like giving us all these emotional messages about with Jupiter will be a lot more of like ways we can expand and grow into our deepest desires or our comfort in our home life. And then this trine to Saturn will be like, okay, here's how to constructively make this long lasting by having necessary emotional boundaries, by making sure that you're not giving everything away to everyone, but selective people instead, or something like that, like containing your emotional growth, but also wanting to expand it. And it's
Mm.
very interesting.
It is super interesting. I'm also wondering too if, like, we get kind of more of that, like, hopeful expansion,
Hmm.
like, I don't know. I just see with, like, Mercury trining Jupiter, especially in the water sign, like this water sign trine, because our feelings are going to be so activated and present,
Yeah.
it's almost going to be like what you feel is primary over anything else. Where we had the air trine, it might have been what I think, or, more
Mhm.
factual stuff.
Mhm.
Now it's going to be like, what do I feel on like a visceral level? And with all these planets in Scorpio, it's like to the core, what do I feel? And then, how can I expand based off what I would like to feel in the projected future? Saturn kind of comes in to be like, how do I lay the foundation to make sure that in the future I feel good, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Like this is a very kind of constructive energy, I think, like positive shifts in your mental spirit of just like, yeah, thinking about your feelings and your emotions and those deeper desires that your feelings are showing you. Like, sometimes I think we ignore certain feelings because we think they shouldn't be there. They're not logical. Like, I don't know why I get jealous with this person. I don't want to think about it. Like instead of being like, no, I should expand on that idea a bit because that's telling me something that I actually need to change in my concrete world, which would be Saturn. Like
Yeah.
Jupiter would be expanding an emotion for you that is actually a message about something that in your reality actually does need to change for
Yeah.
that space. Yeah.
You brought up such a good point. I'm actually working with a little Scorpio girl right now on jealousy.
Oh. Oh, really?
Yes, because jealousy is like, really feel like that is like a big Scorpio emotion
Oh,
is,
yeah.
yeah, this feeling of jealousy. So I would not be surprised if, some jealousy gets activated in you, during this time with all these planets in Scorpio. We made like a jealousy jar. So like every time she feels jealous, she like writes it down on like a piece of paper and feeds it to a little jealousy monster who eats it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
that's so
pretty cute.
cute.
Yeah, but like get it like going behind the veil, like there is a reason that you feel jealous and it's usually like some
Right.
kind of unmet need.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want that for yourself. You're
Mhm.
experiencing this feeling of separation and lack that you do not either deserve this or you can't earn this or it's not for you, it's for this other person, but you want
Mhm.
that. But that want is something that you can actually have. You just have to like accept that first and like bring it up and then like now we do need to make some sort of change. Like, hey, if you want this, what is the structural change? What are the hard work, the step by step to get there, you know?
For sure. I do think it's also important to note that, all of our inner planets besides
Venus.
Venus are in water
Yeah.
signs. So
Yeah.
just, I think, be prepared to like feel a little bit like swept away in emotion. Um, and feel like a little ungrounded. I would think that that is like normal experience. And I think what offsets that sometimes is like, yes, talking about your emotions almost like kind of activates it more. But I
Right.
think like inviting grounding exercises in when you don't feel very grounded. Um, and I think it's important to like practice those too before you get to like a totally ungrounded space because then it's like really hard. Um, but like spending time outside in nature, it's like a beautiful, like this is a beautiful time of year to be outside and like enjoying the weather. So, like walks, out
Hmm.
in nature, just things that make you feel like grounded and at ease some way. And I think that'll try to help alleviate some of like the emotional expansion that a lot of us are going to be feeling.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely going to be a Scorpio season. Like we
Oh,
were
for
talking
sure.
about Libra season, not really
Yeah.
feeling like Libra season. We're gonna come into Scorpio season ready for it. Like
Oh, for sure. I know. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a lot of therapy signups this month.
you probably will.
Yeah, for sure.
And it will be like the deepest crap too.
I know, right? Well, I mean, it's worthwhile looking at.
It's needed. So
Yeah.
yeah, just yeah, for you, you just wanna like for this week, we will definitely pay attention to Libra with the new moon there, but look ahead to wherever Scorpio is in your chart and like what planets you have there and what's getting activated because that's gonna be loud coming at the end of this week for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Well, hope it's a
All
good
right.
one. Use your emotion and make art out of it also because we still have Venus in Libra, so
Yeah, you can make it pretty. You can make it painful and pretty.
Mhm. True.
All right. Well, if you want more content from us, you can follow us on TikTok or Instagram. And the video of this is on YouTube at Two Girls Talk Transits. And we will see y'all next week.
See you.
Bye.